It all counts. Next, we'll have Representative Pence from the state of Indiana. You're recognized for 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for holding this meeting. You know, thank you to the witnesses for being here today. You know, you're hearing the same thing from everybody. So I'm because we all feel the same way. Our constituents all feel the same way. I can tell you feel the same, the data privacy. And Ms. Givens, when you said that we've had 21 hearings in 5 years, I took all of my comments and I threw them out. Because I thought, well, here we go again. It's almost like we're just deja vu, doing the same thing over and over and over. And Mr. Mudd, in your testimony, which with Ms. Dingle, you were making this point again, and I'm going to quote, "The scale of data collection and transfer using these mechanisms is difficult to comprehend. How big, how much data you're collecting from me." I walked in this morning and I have a letter from Privacy for America. I don't know anything about them, really. But here they say that consumers' incomes have been enhanced to the tune of $30,000 because of all this data collection. And I think that's great. So my question gets to the money. I've been a businessman all my life. And if data collectors, and they're sitting in this room, are providing me $30,000 in services, how much are they making to give me that much value? And since it's incomprehensible, the amount of data being taken from me, and I'm going to ask you each of this, can I be compensated for this incomprehensible amount of data that is being taken from me? Start with you, Mr. Mudd.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Whether users can be directly compensated or not, I think certainly it's an interesting question, one that's been posed many times in the past and should be further explored. I will say that the notion that the only way that businesses or can leverage digital advertising effectively is through this incomprehensible collection of data is absolutely false, and that there are other ways through this problem that do not sacrifice the privacy of individuals, and that those technologies, as I've mentioned earlier, are employed elsewhere in a proven fashion.
You know, if I can go off on that, I've done a lot of digital advertising in business, okay? And we've thrown out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to mail, radio, and TV. And I'm not doing an advertisement for the other mediums or the other venues, okay? But I have found that digital advertising for a small business is not very effective. But back to the same question: can I make money off my data that everybody's taken from me?
Like my colleague, I'll say it's an interesting question, but I don't think it gets to the heart of how we protect consumers going forward, because discussions about monetization and compensating users doesn't actually get them the protections they want for their data.
Okay, so I know I can see where you're going with that, Ms. Givens, but if 21 committee hearings in 5 years isn't moving the ball forward, and in a sense, there's almost a sense of delay, keep talking about the same thing, why wouldn't finding a way to monetize, for me to get paid for my information, why wouldn't that maybe change the trajectory?
Well, it's my job to be an optimist, and I think this committee has made progress as a result of those 31 hearings, and we're close. But what is important, I think what needs to be addressed here, is that really in the advertising world, we have market failure. Right now, the only incentive is a race to the bottom, to hyper-target as much as you can. And for the digital advertising companies that offer the most specific profiles on people, they're the ones that win the race. And there's no incentive for them to innovate into privacy-protecting ways of delivering ads that matter.
So I would...
That's the innovation we want to encourage.
Thank you. Now, I'll move on to the last witness. But, you know, if I get to opt in, or because I'll get paid for it, maybe that'll change their behavior too. Okay? And then finally, last witness. Yes,
You're
ma'am.
asking me the same question.
Yes,
well,
yes, Ms. Rich.
One of the problems with that idea of an even exchange is that it hasn't worked in terms of notice and choice, where consumers have to individually, supposedly negotiate with each company. So
Well,
I
but
think it
of
puts
course,
the burden.
I was in the banking industry, and we had truth in lending where you had to make it real simple what you were agreeing to when you clicked yes. But with that, I've run out of time. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Appreciate it very much. Now we'll have the gentlelady, my good friend from the Tampa Bay area, Representative Castor. We'll recognize her for her 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my good friend, and thanks to the ranking member. And to the witnesses, thank you. You've been very strong and have provided